We are live. So good morning, everybody. We are hopefully, fingers crossed, we are live on my Facebook page, Paula at Taylor. Oh, I've just realised I've got no title on here. What have we done with my on-screen title? We've disappeared. Hold on, show that. There we go. So we're hopefully live on my Facebook page, Paula at Tailory, my YouTube channel, and fingers crossed on my LinkedIn profile as well. So hello to everybody on all those channels. If you are watching us live, please do let us know that you're there. Even a little hello is great. It's really useful to actually know who's watching, who we're talking to. So today I'm very pleased to introduce Tracey Robertson. Tracey is a bookkeeper extraordinaire, and I know this is a peak time of year for people to have questions about accounts, but having said that, it's one of those things that I see throughout the year, that people building businesses are very much bamboozled by the numbers. It's very often something that just gets left to the last minute. They don't enjoy it. They don't understand it, and often feel embarrassed or stupid about asking questions. So that's why Tracey is here today, so you can ask all of your most stupid questions, because if you're thinking it, everybody else is thinking it too. So Tracey, first off, just tell us a little bit about you, about who you are, about how you've come to be this brilliant bookkeeper.
I was a bookkeeper for a lot of years and ran a practice, but very just recently I've kind of rebranded myself, if you like, the small business accounts coach, because I do truly believe that if you are going to outsource something, and anything, doesn't matter what it is, but if you're going to outsource anything, you need to know enough to know that whether you're getting a good job for your money or not. You know, so yeah, you could hand over all your receipts and everything else to somebody, but you have got no clue. So you need, and I get that the numbers scare people, and I get that it's the last thing they want to be doing. They want to do what it is that makes them happy and makes them money. But you do need, if you're going to be in business, you do need a basic understanding of what all your numbers and it means, and where to put it, and how to deal with it, and you know what it's going to mean for the tax man at the end of the year.
One of the things that I find actually, Tracey, is I see a lot of fear in business about the numbers. A lot of people feel genuinely stupid about it. There's almost this feeling that once you've started your own business, you're just supposed to know this stuff.
Yeah, and it's not true.
But the key thing I find is that actually, once people get a grip of it and understand that it's not that complicated, it makes a massive difference to people feeling like more serious business owners. They actually feel like they know what they're doing. They are an established business person, and it gives them a huge level of confidence. It really does.
It does. I have a client, I started working with her towards the end of last year. Now, she's been in business for about 20 years. She ran florist shops, and then she stopped when she had her kids. And then now she started, and she does a bit of roadside, and she's got a little cabin. And she says, and all she'd ever wanted to do was to understand enough so that she thought it was a proper business, if you like. And in about November, she was crying. And I was like, well, what's the matter? She says, I feel for the first time in 20 years, and I've asked a dozen people, she says, I actually feel like now I understand. I can see my number on the system we've set up for her. She says, I can see my numbers. I can see where my costs are going. I can see what's making me money and what isn't. She says, and for the first time ever, I feel like, oh, it's not a hobby, and I'm not stupid, and it's a proper business, and I'm a businesswoman. And she was so chuffed.
Brilliant.
And it isn't that difficult. I have other clients who we've worked with, and after they go, well, is that it? Is that all I've got to do? And I'm like, well, yeah, pretty much. Once you have a system set up, it's not rocket science. Trust me, it really is it can be quite simple if it's set up right.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we have no choice but to dive straight into the hot topic at the moment, seeing as we're in the middle of January. I know the big question for everybody is tax returns. So I guess the first and most obvious question is, who needs to submit a tax return? Is it absolutely all of us? Are some people excluded?
Right. If you only work for somebody and get a payslip at the end of the month, and that is all your income, and you've got nothing else, then no, you do not have to do a tax return, because your tax and national insurance is taken care of. If you have any form of income where you don't get a pay slip, and there is no tax deducted, so self-employed business owners, who is particularly who I deal with, But if you're a director of your own limited company or anybody else's limited company, you are also obliged to do a tax return, because it's likely that you, as a shareholder as well, will have dividends to declare that won't have been taxed, or they might have been taxed, but you still have to declare it. So you need to ask your accountant about that.
Yeah.
If you have property that you let, and that is property income, now there is an allowance on that if it's under a certain amount, you don't have to declare it. But if you've got all these other things going on as well, then yeah, put it in.
Yeah.
And then there's lots of things. If you have pensions, overseas income, trust funds. Though I suggest that anybody with a trust fund isn't watching us today, but somebody will be sorting that out for them. Any and every form of income has got to be declared. Now, yes, there are exemptions and allowances and this and that and the next thing, but clearly it's better to do it and not have to do it than not do it if you're supposed to do it.
Yeah.
Ignorance isn't a defence as far as it's concerned. The fact that you didn't know doesn't mean to say they're going to go, oh, well, never mind, off you go.
No, I think that's the key thing with HMRC, isn't it? That, they can be impossible to get hold of, and it can take them months and weeks and years or whatever to deal with a query or anything like that. Yeah. But as far as they're concerned, a deadline is a deadline. You're supposed to know it. You're supposed to meet it. Yes. And they're not open to too much of a chin wag about things like that, are they?
That's right. And even if you have an accountant and they didn't do what you thought they were going to do, it's still down to you.
Yeah,
it's not them.
Yeah, I'm forever telling people that an accountant and or bookkeeper is one of the most important resources in your business. You really should be building a great relationship with those people, because they'll give you so much support and knowledge. But absolutely, you're right in that what you can't do is just abdicate to those people. It's not their responsibility to make sure you do the right things on the right time. It's always yours. So yeah, make sure that you're keeping in touch with those people who've got that job to do. But yeah, the responsibility definitely always sits with you.
That said, if you are self-employed, if you're a limited company, then yes, you must have an accountant. Absolutely no argument about that.
Yeah.
If you are self-employed and it is really quite simple, then no, you actually don't have to have an accountant, because they will cost you money. And if you're only a very small business, you mightn't be able to afford it. So you don't necessarily have to have one, but at least arm yourself with the knowledge.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Get some kind of help.
So what deadlines do people need to be aware of for their tax return? Because obviously we all know there's the magic deadline of the 31st of January. Is that the only deadline we need? Or what other dates do we need to know about?
No, absolutely not. 31st of January is the absolute deadline for filing the tax return for the tax year that ended the previous 5th of April. So this is 10 months ago, and that's for the year leading up to that. So the tax return that everybody's panicking about right now is for the tax year that ran from the 6th of April 2021 to the 5th of April 2022. So any income, if you had your own business and you've got income in that period and you registered as self-employed either in or before that period, that's the tax return that you're having to do now if you haven't already done it. I would always advocate, please do not leave it till January to do it.
Yeah.
But 50% of the 13 million do. And I really don't get it, because while you're panicking about the numbers that are like nearly 2 years old, you're not focused on the numbers for now.
No, this is very true.
So
there's also the 31st of January is the corresponding payment deadline as well, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
So of course, if you submit it nice and early, then you've got a few months to plan for that. Whereas
you have
in the last couple of days, and then it's all slapping you around the face in one go, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. And if this is your first tax return, the other question people ask is, I went online and I did it, and it tells me I owe lots more than what I think I did, what I thought I did.
It always says that, doesn't it?
And that is because, sometimes you didn't realise how much profit you made. That national insurance is also added on to your 20% income tax. And if the first year, which might be your first year or the first year that your liability is more than £1,000, you have to pay in advance for the next year.
Yes.
So at the end of January, so if your tax liability was £2,000 for that trading year, they're going to want £3,000 at the end of January, and then they're going to want another £1,000 in July.
Yeah.
So July we won't worry about because it's 6 months away. You can, you've got time to save it up if you haven't. But if you haven't saved that money, then that's a big, and I'll tell you a secret. The first time I was self-employed way back when, I didn't save any money either, and I had a tax bill that I couldn't pay. And how stupid did I feel ringing the revenue and going, actually, I've just done it, but I can't afford to pay you all at once. Can I have an instalment plan? I felt about this bit. I'm a bookkeeper. I should have known these things, So how stupid did I feel? Which is why now I kind of say to people, please save up. Please don't leave it to the last minute.
Absolutely. Yeah. And like you say, the earlier you work on this stuff, the more notice you've got, and then you can save for it, and it's all quite steady and manageable at that stage. But the last minute
if you do your tax return in April, so say this year you're going to be really organised, you do it on the 10th of April, you don't have to submit it. You just know. And even if you submit it, you don't have to pay it. Just don't forget.
You've got all that lovely time to actually pay it. If somebody's new in business, Tracey, do they? What's the question I'm trying to ask you? Who needs to submit a return now based on when they started their business? If somebody started last summer or the summer before, how do they know when they need to submit their first tax return?
If you started your business before 6th of April 2022, so even if it was the 20th of March, you're going to have to do a tax return for the 21-22 tax year by the end of this January. If you registered as self-employed and your start date was after the 5th of April 22, then you do not have to worry about it yet until after April this year.
Okay.
So only if you started in business before the 5th of April 22.
Perfect. Now, I think this is the $1 million question. Is it worth somebody trying to do their own tax return, or is it better practice to hire a bookkeeper or an accountant to do it for you?
If your circumstances are really quite simple, so if you have just a very simple money in, money out business, whether you either make things or you sell services or just something quite simple, and there's only you and it's really straightforward, and or maybe you have a job as well, then it's really quite straightforward and you could do it yourself. Now, some people even at that point go, no, I'm just going to let an accountant do it. However, if you do not have an accountant or a bookkeeper already, trying to find one between now and the 31st of January that's a good one, that isn't going to charge you like literally an arm and a leg to get it done, is going to be virtually impossible. So if you haven't got an accountant at this stage, I would say you're pretty much on your own. Except, well, not quite on your own. There are obviously people like me who will help people, not do it for you, but guide you. But you're going to be pretty much doing it yourself.
So I think the short answer to that was, in an ideal world, if you've got a really, really simple business, then do it yourself. In my honest opinion, I tend to tell people, just plan this as part of your business. Plan in the cost for an accountant or bookkeeper to help you with that. It's not something you need to know the ins and outs of how to do that return. So it's not generally a great use of people's time. For me, I would get a specialist involved. But equally, I think the point you made that the specialists are now ever so slightly busy with that deadline,
just a little bit,
is also really key. So if somebody does it themselves, Tracey, what are the key things they need to remember to add in? And what are the typical things that people perhaps sometimes miss out and maybe lose some benefit because of the fact that they've thought they can't include things or forgotten things?
Well, I mean, if you're at that point now where you've decided that, you've got to do one and you're going to be doing it yourself, the first thing I would do is dig out your gateway ID and password, log on and make sure you are registered to do a self-assessment tax return. It's just an a tax thing. But just make sure you can get in, because we only log into this like once a year. And it's easy to sort of forget the password, forget what phone number you used for the code to be sent through and everything else. So first, before you do anything else, log in, make sure you can get in, make sure that it's sat there waiting for you to do. As for the things that you'll need to gather, if you don't have an account system that you've kept up to date, although bearing in mind that we're talking about the year that ended 10 months ago, if you haven't got everything on a system or a spreadsheet already ready to go, income. So if we specifically talk about self-employed income, This is any money that you have received in exchange for goods or services, and any grants that you might have had that are taxable as well. So if you got in that year, they were still giving out the COVID grants.
Oh, yes.
COVID grants need adding into your income.
Yeah.
So there was it was alphabet soup, wasn't it? It was SEISS, it was CJRS, it was, there was a number of them. There was quite a few of them.
Yeah.
The one thing that people do miss is if you get paid by payment platform, so Stripe, Go Cardless, and probably a number of others as well, you receive in your bank account the amount the customer paid less the fees.
Yes.
But your income you have to declare is what that customer paid.
Yeah.
And then the fees go into expenses.
Yeah.
Now, yes, I know some people go, well, it doesn't make no difference because it won't take one from the other and it's net. But it does make a difference. If you don't put that full income in, you're under declaring income, which did make a difference if you were claiming COVID grants based on turnover.
Yeah.
Payment platform income, all of it, and the fees are expenses. Other things that you can put in are, so it's wholly and exclusively for the needs of the business. So if you buy something or incur a charge that is all for the business and only for the business, then you can claim it, legitimately claim it.
Okay.
There are a few things that have got dual purpose. So mobile phones, if you only have one mobile phone and use it for personal and business, make a guess at a percentage of how much use is business and how much is personal, and claim that business percentage of your monthly fee or whatever it is. That's okay.
Yeah.
If you work from home and you're online a lot, which a lot of us are, broadband, your home broadband.
Yeah.
Now, if you need the landline to have the broadband, which unless you've got fibre to the house, you do, I would say you can have that as well. But again, it's a percentage. So I live with my husband and I'm online many hours a day and many days a week. I claim 75%.
Okay.
If we had 5 kids who all lived in the house and came and we're on it's going to be much less than that, because obviously everybody's having a bit of it. Just be sensible and just keep copy of a bill. Just be prepared to prove why you put that in.
Yeah.
And work from home, again, the work from home expenses as well. And bear in mind, we're talking about people who are self-employed sole traders, not limited company owners.
Yeah.
This is specifically self-employed. So the work from home, there's 2 ways of doing it. There's the simplified, which is a sliding scale on how many hours, and it's a maximum of, if you work 101 or more hours a month in your business, which is only about 25 hours a week from home, you can claim £26 a month towards your heating and lighting and energy bills.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, I did this, but then there's a pro rata way of doing it, which you take your bills and there isn't actually a defined way of doing it. You just have to be reasonable. There is an example on Revenue's website. Now, I did this exercise last April and found that actually the £26 a month I was claiming was about the same as my bills. But we've had 2 price increases on our bills since then.
Yeah.
I'm suggesting for most people, if you can be bothered, is to do the sum and see if you'd be better off doing it the pro rata way.
Yeah.
So I can do some things later. And there was one other thing, mileage. If you use your personal car for business, going to see clients, going to the wholesaler, going to the bank, the post office, whatever, just keep a mileage log and claim 45 pence a mile. Again, there is a pro rata for using your personal car, but it gets very complicated.
Yeah.
Just do the mileage. If you're a gardener or a tradesman or something and you've got a van, as well as the family car, then the van can go in the business and you can claim everything.
Yeah.
But the revenue if it's
and
a car,
things like lunches, or if you're going meeting clients and having coffee and things like that.
No. Entertainment of clients and is not allowable. Only staff. I did.
If
you have staff, so not subcontractors, not freelancers,
Yeah.
not anybody you out, but if you
Employees.
actually have a payroll and have staff,
Yeah.
then you can claim certain expenses for them,
Yeah.
but you cannot claim entertainment expenses for clients.
So even if that's an actual business meeting, so somebody like me, I mean, I'm not self-employed, I'm limited, so I'm slightly different. But if I'm going to meet a client and neither of us have an office, so we meet in a coffee shop and I buy them coffee, and I buy me coffee.
Yeah. Now, as a limited company, you can put anything you like through your business, but your accountant, if he or she notices that this is client entertainment, is probably going to add it back into your profit before they calculate your corporation tax.
Okay.
So actually, it doesn't. You're not any better off. So and everybody goes, but other companies do it, and I did it when I had a job, because the people who get the benefit of the dividend and the profit are not the people that work in the business. So the bank, expenses from the 1980s when there was all the yuppies and the banking and stuff. Yeah, somebody paid for that. It just wasn't you. But if you're the owner of your own limited company, you're going to be paying for it.
It's you anyway.
Whichever way you do it,
So one thing you touched on a little bit earlier, Tracey, is using digital account systems. So typically the cloud-based software we're talking about these days. And this is probably one of the biggest changes that I have seen for small business owners. I've been coaching for just over 14 years now. And I'm not sure any of this stuff existed when I first started, or if they did, it was only things like Sage that were really complicated. Whereas now we've got a stack of different systems. Of course, we've got Xero, Free Agent, QuickBooks, and quite a few others. And as I say, I think this has been a huge change over these last few years. What are your thoughts on using one of those systems? Do you even have any thoughts on, is there a best system or how to choose?
Well, as always, it's horses for courses. And it's what you feel comfortable using. But if anybody had been hearing about MTD for ITSA, which people like me have been banging on about for years and years, there was an announcement just before Christmas, kept very quiet, that HMRC have delayed it. Now, this was going to mean that every self-employed business, every sole trader who turned over more than £10,000 was going to have to use a digital account system from next April 24.
And just to clarify, MTD is making tax
digital, and ITSA is income tax for self-assessment. So another alphabet soup. The announcement was they've actually delayed it for 2 years, which means that you are no longer going to be required to go use a digital accounting system until April 2026, and they've changed the thresholds and they've made them much higher. So initially it's going to be people who only turn over £50,000. Well, that's going to negate probably 90% of all self-employed business owners in this country at this stage. But that said, doesn't mean that digital accounting is not useful. I truly deeply believe that digital accounting in most cases makes your business accounting quicker, easier, much less stressful, can actually save you money, because you actually can see your numbers and you know what you're doing, and you can see where you're spending, maybe why you need to cut costs. But actually the systems as well, if they're set up right, and I've seen a lot of cases where they're not, because the TV ads that I shout at every time they come on make it sound so simple. You just download this and press that button and hey presto, there you go. I'm sorry, it is not that simple. And you might think I'm saying that because my services basically are based around setting these systems up for people. But trust me, that unless you really do know what you're doing and have some kind of accountancy, financy knowledge, it isn't that simple. And if it's not set up right, it's like any other computer system, rubbish in, rubbish out. But if it's set up right, basically you just sync your bank account, do your sales. There'll be a few other bits, because we're all all businesses are different, so there isn't a generic, this is how you do it. And then there's generally a report you can print at the end that says, there's your numbers for your tax return. So it's not quite click a button and done, but it's in there.
But I think one of the other key things about it is that they allow you to keep track of your potential tax situation all the way through the year. So you lose those surprises. But I think the biggest thing that I've found is, we've talked very much about a lot of people, they don't understand these numbers. They feel like they're a bit of an idiot for not understanding. They feel like their business is out of control. Whereas I so often see that once people bring in one of these cloud systems into their business, it really gives them that sense of security and control. And it does actually help, I think, to simplify a lot of it. For me, it's kind of just do this at the earliest available opportunity. Ease yourself in, because I think people think they have to use all the functionality, whereas actually I think you can set it up, you can start gradually, you can start adding additional things into it as you go.
I mean, most of them, I mean, I particularly use Sage Cloud Accounting. I mean, I'll have a look at some of the others, but that's the one. I've been using it for years. I know it inside out. I know my way around it. I've got contacts at Sage that I can ask if we don't know or it gets in a pickle. But all of them have these other apps and softwares that can integrate with them. So Stripe integrates straight into them. There are slightly more techie realm, but you can actually link Shopify and Amazon and things like this into it as well. And you can link what is it, like purchase order systems, if you're that complicated, but most of us aren't really. You know, you raise your sales invoice in it, and if it's paid by Stripe, it's all done for you. You don't have to worry about it. Sync the bank account, and the bank account will learn, oh, actually so and so's paid. Is it that invoice over there? Yeah, it is. And as you pay for things, they only do work if you've got a separate bank account for your business to your personal, though. Otherwise, it does get a bit messy.
Really, everyone should have that.
They should, really, yes. Yeah. Not, unfortunately, again, not mandatory. But just common sense.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, as I say, the one I particularly use is Sage Cloud Accounting. I have got a couple of clients on Xero. A free agent and is one that comes, if you actually do have a business bank account with NatWest,
it's free.
Not a personal one you're using as a business account, but actually a proper business account, you get free agent free.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is exactly what I have, and I already had free agent and I already had a NatWest account, so that was an absolute bonus. But I really like free agent, and I'm not a tech phobic or anything, but I'm not like a massive lover of tech either. And I found free agent to be very straightforward, very intuitive, very easy to just start using additional functions as you go. But it's made things so much simpler than having to send spreadsheets off to the accountants that I didn't massively understand. So
spreadsheets are okay, and they have their place. I mean, I live my life on spreadsheets. Everything's a spreadsheet in my life, but they can be very quickly corrupted. And formulas can just misalign or be a bit wrong, and if you don't know what you're looking at, you don't notice it. And it can.
So I've got one juicy question for you, Tracey, because Jill messaged me this morning with a question. I can see we've got a few people watching us on Facebook and on LinkedIn. So if anybody is watching and you have your own question, please do feel free to pop that in the comments, or of course you can message Tracey afterwards, and I'm sure she'll give you some fabulous answers. But Jill has asked me, they are considering building a garden office. Can she put any of that through the business? Can she put any of the building costs, any of the furnishing costs, the heating costs? What are the pros and cons of any of that stuff?
It does make a difference as to whether you're limited or self-employed. So, but because if it's a garden office in your house, so this is not business premises, this is actually where you live and it's your house. The answer is no, in a word, because it's personal use. Even if you're only ever going to use it as a thing, because you have to be careful as well, is that if you build a business premises, you're going to come under local authority, non-domestic rates. You're going to possibly come under capital gains tax as and when you sell that house, including that property. So it's just much less messy to say no. It is a personal thing. So if you're limited, you can put whatever, as we said before with the other thing, you can put whatever you like through, but your accountant is likely going to say no, you can't have that for tax, we'll add it back in. But so structure and building
the same though in terms of the capital gains tax position, that if you put that through the business, if it's limited, you're still going to have that capital gains tax issue, aren't you?
Because the thing, the bill won't belong, even though they paid for it. It doesn't actually belong to the business. It belongs to you because it's in your garden. So structure wise, so if you're self-employed, no, structure wise, so the base, the building, the ceiling, the doors and the windows, no, you can't put that through. Internal, so if you put an alarm in it, for instance, because it's where you work, that would be okay. So furnishings, decoration, you put a sink in it, or your blinds for
your desk cupboards,
your writing, all of that. Yes, you have.
Right.
I do have a link which when we put this in Facebook, I'll go and find it again, that an accountant gave to me, because you have to remember, I'm not an accountant. So I'm not giving anybody advice. I'm merely repeating what's in the public domain and giving you my opinion. But I did get this in writing from an accountant who said yes to this stuff, no to this stuff. And I'll put that in.
Yeah, perfect. No, that's fab.
So basically structure, no, but internal, yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like a fair divide, as it were. Wonderful. So I absolutely knew we would have no trouble at all here, Tracey, filling 30 minutes, and it has gone in a flash. So if anybody is watching, you do still have burning questions, I'm sure you can pop those into the comments, and Tracey will keep an eye on them. If anybody watches on replay and you've got questions or comments, again, please just feel free to keep adding those in. Tracey, if people are listening and thinking, oh, I really need a bit more Tracey in my life, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you or to consider working with you?
Okay, the first thing I would always do is just come and have a chat with me first. I have a 15-minute clarity call, which, a bit like this, is never 15 minutes. I think it's usually around about 30 or even more if I've got the time. But just come and have a chat with me first. Tell me about your business. Tell me about you. Tell me about what you're struggling with particularly. And we can sort of have a chat about what would make it easier and what you actually need to get out of it, and how then you can work with me. And I've got various different things. I can set up systems, or I can just be an accountability person to give you a kick up the arse if you actually know how to do your numbers but you don't do them. So just come and have that clarity call, and we'll put that link in.
Great. Where will people find you on social media, and what kind of pages, what's your business name?
So I'm only on Facebook at the moment.
Okay.
Haven't quite delved into the realms of anything else yet. And I am the Small Business Accounts Coach.
Fantastic.
Or just Tracey Robertson, and it's me.
Great. So Tracey, if you pop any of your links into, whether you want to put a Facebook link, a website link, or anything like that, you pop that into the comments straight after this. Then people can follow that through and get in touch with you. I think that's us done for today. So thank you everybody for tuning in. Like I say, just please feel free to keep adding in questions or comments if you've got anything that you'd love Tracey's feedback on, or get in touch with her.
I would just add one thing, is if you have either suddenly realised or I've stopped trying to forget that you have a tax return to do, you have 18 days to do it. Do not panic. It is still very possible, even if you haven't even started anything yet, and even if everything's just in big piles of paper, it is very possible still to do it. Come and have a chat, and let's do you an action plan for free. And then, just so you can get it done out of the way. Don't be worrying about next year or April or whatever. Let's just do what you need to do in January.
Yeah, just get it sorted. It's all good. Wonderful. Thank you very much, Tracey, for coming along and for all your fabulous advice today. Hopefully people have got lots of juicy value out of it, and will be totally in control of their accounts and their numbers from now on.
If everybody was totally in control, I wouldn't be.
You'd be out of a job. Brilliant. All right, great to talk to you, Tracey. Thank you everybody for watching. Take care, folks. Goodbye.